Hello ladies and gentlemen and welcome to Royal Chess. My name is Ján Markoš. I'm a Slovak GM and this is my fifth part of my series about Anatoly Karpov and his strategical proficiency. So today we will have a look at the game which was actually played at the World Championship match, during a World Championship match. It's a game Karpov against Korchnoi, which was played in Baguio in 1978, the game number 14. And our strategical topic for today is the opposite colored bishops. Because Karpov went directly from the opening into a position where the presence of the opposite colored bishops was the most important factor, and he basically skipped the middle game. He went from the opening directly to the end game. But well, let's have a look. So Karpov played e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6. Karpov is white, Korchnoi is black. Bishop b5, a6, bishop a4, knight f6. All of this is very normal. This is the most classical Spanish variable in stock. But once Karpov castled, now Korchnoi decided to take on e4. As far as I remember, this open Spanish line was played only in this World Championship match. Usually during the World Championship championships, black players rely on the more solid closed Spanish, or even on the Berlin endgame lately, and Korchnoi was probably the only one who had the guts to play the open Spanish. Now white plays d4, and basically taking on d4 for black is too risky already, because once black takes here, then white has several possibilities to play along the e-file. So basically it's well known that now black has to play b5, and after bishop b3, d5, and now after d takes e5, black plays bishop e6. All of this is theory, everything is well known, but still we can maybe speak a little about the strategical character of the position. Basically, black he's quite present in the center. He's got a pawn there. The bishop sticks this structure together. The knight on e4 is pretty much active, although sometimes even quite vulnerable. So black is quite well developed. On the other hand, black's problem is the vulnerability of his queenside structure. As he had played b5 and also put his knight to c6, he cannot really play c7, c6, so white pins his hopes to the structure, and he hopes that he will find a way how to break it and maybe take one of these pawns, or make use of the fact that this c7 pawn is not on c5, so maybe make use of the c5 square or so. All this being said, the next moves are still quite well known. White played c3 in order to keep his bishop alive. He wants to go bishop c2 and maybe put some pressure on the e4 knight. Black played bishop c5, knight bd2. Now if black can of course take on f2, but after exchanges there is no attack for black, and the two white light pieces are more important during the middle game than a rook and an extra pawn. So this is probably not a very good idea. So black simply castled, and white played bishop c2. And the big question in this position is whether black has simply to exchange the strong e4 knight or not, or whether he can try to keep it where it is. So for example, after knight takes d2, bishop takes d2, white would be quite happy, because once this knight disappears, then white can go knight g5, try to attack a bit here, and his play is much simpler. So after bishop c2, Korchnoi quite understandably tried to keep his his knight where it is, and he played bishop f5, and white played knight b3, attacking the c5 bishop. And again, if black starts to somehow to go back, for example bishop e7, white can go bishop e3 and take some ground in the center. So again, after knight b3, Korchnoi was trying to find some way how to attack as forcefully as possible against white structure. So he went bishop g4. This might seem to be a bit counterintuitive, but actually makes a lot of sense, because the pin is more unpleasant with the knight on b3 than on d2. Now white played h3. Taking on f3 is not such a good idea, because white can maybe even take with the g pawn, and then black is after this takes. Now black is literally forced to give away some material. So after h3, black simply, and maybe white can even take with the queen, takes knight d5, queen f5, knight d5, queen f5. All this is also quite unpleasant, because although black is a pawn up, two of his pieces are being attacked, and also there are some chances against the h7 pawn. So this is not possible. So black simply went bishop h5, white played g4, bishop g6, and now this seems to be a weakening, this g to g4 move, but Karpov already saw that he is going to transpose the game into an endgame, where this g to g4 move is not such a weakening. So he went bishop takes e4, d takes e4, knight takes c5, e takes f3. And now, of course, after, for example, queen takes f3, knight takes e5, black still has a good game, because white's king is quite open, and there are still queens on the board. So Karpov wanted to get the queens off, so he went bishop f4 instead. On the one hand, he wants to take the queens off, on the other hand, he doesn't want to take immediately, because then the black rook comes to the d file very cheaply. So he decided to play bishop f4, and now the queen cannot really go away, because after queen e7 there is a very strong queen d5 move, and after queen h4 white can simply take on f3. So black took, rook a d1, and we got into this position, which is the main topic of this video. Basically, white directly from the opening line went into this, you may say it endgame, you may say that this is a middle game without queens, but still a very interesting position and a very technical position. So this is a position which suits Karpov and would suit, for example, Magnus Carlsen very well. If there were just bishops on board, it would be a simple draw, because opposite colored bishops are pretty much able to keep a draw. So that would be a mistake on white's side to exchange all other pieces. But with the presence of knights and rooks, white's got a lot of chances. So therefore Korchnoi decided to exchange at least the knights, and he went a very nice move, knight e8, because the knight on c5 is pretty much strong. So black wants to put the knight on e6 and exchange the c5 knight, rook d7, knight d6, and now there is a tactical justification of black's play, that now he attacks the f4 bishop, so white cannot take the extra pawn, bishop e3, and black played rook a c8. And now many players would say that this is a clear draw, simply because of the presence of the opposite colored bishops, but the opposite is true. White has got good chances to activate his king via h2 and g3, and the king will attack the vulnerable f3 pawn. This pawn is by no means strong. It's rather vulnerable and can be taken on many occasions. Also, white is the ruler of the D file, the only open file, and also there are some interesting weak spots for his bishops, for example, on c5. On the other hand, black has no ideas on how to get some activity. For example, along the f file, all the intrusion points are being covered, so black simply has to sit and wait. So white went rook fd1, and black tried at least to get the bishop to a better square. Rook 7 d4, and now black played bishop d5. So now it seems that black was successful in closing the d file, but white has got means how to fight against it, as we will see very quickly. Now white went b3, and now c4 is in the air sometimes, uncorking the d file. Black went a5, and as it's very typical for Karpov, he's in no hurry, and he went king h2, rook a8, king g3, simply improving the position of his king and also attacking the f3 pawn. Black went rook a6, and as you can see, finally black found some idea of counterplay. He wants to go rook c6, and after b4 he would be happy that he has got this diagonal, not speaking about the a2 pawn, which might be very, very vulnerable. Now white went simply h4, so Karpov was by no means impressed by black's plan, because after rook c6 he played a nice exchange sacrifice, rook takes d5, e takes d5, rook takes d5, transforming the position from the opposite colored bishop's position, which truly sometimes is very difficult to win, into a position where white has got a very strong bishop, a very strong rook. Okay, he is in exchange down, but on the other hand, he has got a pawn for it, and the second pawn on f3 is very vulnerable. So black is in a grave danger of losing. And also these two pawns are also quite vulnerable. So now black went rook c6. Of course, white covered the e5 pawn. c6, rook c5. As you can see, this structure is extremely solid. These guys are some kind of mafia. They are just covering each other. This back, rook f8, a4. So white wasn't able to take on f3, so he will try to take on a5. b takes a4, b takes a4, g6. Now white really took on a5. Rook e8. And as you can see, black is desperately trying to get some harmony to find some harmony in the cooperation of his rooks, but he wasn't successful yet. As you can see, although there are not so many pawns on the board, white was quite successful in not creating open files via which the rooks might intrude into his position. So there is just one open file, this b file, and probably with rook e8, Korchnoi is hoping to get there. Rook a7, rook f7, rook a6. Usually when you are an exchange down, you don't want to exchange your only rook for one of the opponent's rooks, because there are some tasks which only rook can do, and simply one of these rooks might prove superfluous at times, but your single rooks will be very useful. And also we can say that rook plus bishop is a material which cooperates very well. It's quite similar to the proverbial material queen and knight. So keeping a rook is vital in this position. A nice small trick that after rook takes e5, white plays bishop d6 and gets an exchange back. So that's why white can go rook c5, and black played rook c8, again trying to trade the rooks on a8. bishop d6, rook a8, and again white doesn't really want to exchange the rooks. Rook takes a4, and now white took on f3. And of course now white has got already 3 pawns. He's got 5 pawns against black's 2 pawns, and this might be enough for a win, even being an exchange down. But there are still very few pawns left on the board, so black still can somehow fight. Black went h5, trying to exchange some pawns and also isolate this h4 pawn. G takes h5, G takes h5. There is such a rule that if you are better materially in an endgame, you are having some extra material, you should exchange the pieces and your chances for a win will improve. But if you are worse, like if you are pawn down or 2 pawns down, you should exchange the pawns and you are getting closer to the draw. So the stronger side exchanges the pieces, the weaker side exchanges the pawns. So that's maybe why Korchnoi is trying to exchange some pawns here. Now white went c4. He's not only trying to run for the c8 square, but also trying to get this h4 pawn safe. And black is trying to create at least some problems on the second rank. c5, rook h4, so the same idea, but now this c pawn has made quite a career, and Karpov no longer wants to cover the h4 pawn. He simply went further. c6, king e6, c7, king d7. So simply Korchnoi is trying to stop the pawns, but it's no longer possible. After rook c8, rook b8, rook c8. Now maybe this is too complicated. Takes. Although this should be won somehow, but Karpov found it simpler to play one more move, and simply he wants to run with the f pawn, and only after rook takes h4 he played this little combination in a style of Capablanca. He played e6, and now Korchnoi gave up because simply after takes this is not playable. For example, rook c4, e7, e7. Maybe e7. No. Maybe e7 is not such a great idea because black can simply take. But better is something like check, and now the idea behind king f3 will be more understandable because now white plays f4 and just covers with f5 and wins simply because this king is not in the contact with this strong duo of passed pawns, so they just roll and a new queen will arise very quickly. So this was a smooth positional win by Anatoly Karpov, who very nicely understood intuitively that this endgame arising from the opening line is giving him a lot of chances to win, despite the presence of the opposite court bishops. My name is Ján Markoš, and this was my video for Royal Chess. Have a nice day. Bye bye.